So a couple of playoff contenders are really going through it right now, and it only seems to be getting worse. There's multiple pass catchers banged up, a QB needing surgery, and that's only the beginning. Then I've got to talk about CeeDee Lamb getting absolutely trucked by a referee, some updates on a couple of hold-ins, additional preseason standouts, and more right after. Alright, we've got a lot to get into in today's video, starting with a couple of key players needing to have surgery. First, Packers quarterback Jordan Love underwent minor surgery on his left thumb today to repair a ligament. The injury occurred during the Packers' first preseason game when Love banged his thumb on somebody's helmet. Thankfully, though, the surgery, again, is minor per reports, and the team's hope is that he's able to return to practice as soon as next week. So he may miss a little chunk of practice, but he should be good to go for the regular season, which is obviously the most important thing for Love heading into his fifth year in the NFL. The injuries for the Packers offense don't stop with Jordan Love either, because that receiving core is looking very banged up at the moment. Today, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst announced that Christian Watson is likely to start the year on the PUP list. That was to be expected after he tore his ACL back in January, just a little over 7 months ago. But that means he'll be out for at least the first 4 games of the season. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it's even a little bit more than that, though Gutekunst did say he's ahead of the curve in his recovery. Now, aside from Watson, Dontavian Wicks has been in and out of practice the last few weeks with a calf injury. Then Jaden Reed was seen in a walking boot during their preseason game on Saturday as he's dealing with an injury to his left foot. And now today, Romeo Doubs left practice early after a collision with safety Evan Williams. He was reportedly very slow to get up, with him appearing to be grabbing at his lower back. The good news, though, is it appears Doubs avoided anything serious. He didn't want to speak with the media today after practice in the locker room, but was walking around seemingly fine, unbothered, and when asked if he was okay, he did reply yes. So we'll see how that goes, but at the moment, that's 4 of their top 5 wide receivers banged up in at least some capacity. The only one that isn't is their first-round rookie, Matthew Golden, so he's going to be in for a much bigger workload, at least for the remainder of camp and preseason. But hopefully these guys can get healthy soon, because if not, they're going to have to make Bo Melton reconvert from cornerback back to wide out once again. In all seriousness, he seems to be doing well in his move from wide receiver to corner, so I am happy for the guy. Next up, another quarterback that underwent surgery today was Jets veteran backup Tyrod Taylor. Aaron Glenn said that it was a minor arthroscopic knee surgery to correct an issue that's been nagging him for over a week. As a result of that, though, Taylor was ruled out for the remainder of the preseason, with Glenn just saying he hopes he's ready for week 1, as do all Jets fans, I'm sure, because even though he is just a backup, it would be a little uncomfortable heading into week 1 with your only quarterbacks behind Justin Fields being Adrian Martinez, a UDFA in 2023, and Brady Cook, a UDFA from this year, who left practice early today with an ankle injury, but it seems to be rather minor. And then before we get to more severe injuries, it's worth mentioning that Eagles guard Landon Dickerson dodged a bullet after being carted off the Eagles practice field on Sunday night with a knee injury. He rode in front of the cart okay, but Eagles fans were fearing the worst. It just turns out he sustained a meniscus injury that will require a surgery, yes, but a pretty minor procedure, all things considered. For right now, the Eagles are considering him week to week, but are hopeful he is out there September 4th, which is week 1, when they kick off the regular season against the Cowboys. Somebody who's going to miss the entire 2025 season, though, is Dolphins running back Alexander Mattison, the former Raider. During Sunday's preseason game against the Chicago Bears, Mattison landed awkwardly on his neck after being tackled and stayed down on the field for a while. It was pretty scary, and from there, he was taken to a hospital in Chicago where he had surgery on his neck. The Dolphins placed him on season-ending IR yesterday evening, but honestly, the more important news out of all this is that Mattison is okay, has full strength and motion, and is expected to make a full recovery. Mike McDaniel said he doesn't believe this is a career-ending injury, but for now, it will put a premature end to his 2025 campaign. Mattison was battling for the number 2 running back job behind Devon Achane, but with his injury, it's now Jalen Wright's job to lose. They also drafted Ollie Gordon in the 6th round, and he now figures to work in as the number 3 back in Miami. But unfortunately, Mattison wasn't the only player ruled out for the season already. Texans tight end Brevin Jordan was carted off the practice field yesterday after going down with a lower right leg injury. We kind of had a feeling it was serious because as the cart came out, Jordan became very emotional with players and coaches gathering around him. Then this morning, news broke out that the Texans indeed placed Brevin Jordan on season-ending IR. The reason why that's heartbreaking and why he was so emotional following the injury is because he had been working back from a torn ACL that he suffered in week 2 last year. Despite that, the Texans gave him a 1-year extension in December with the expectation that he'd be their tight end 2 behind Dalton Schultz, but that's not going to happen, and you can't help but feel for the guy. All that time spent rehabbing and recovering only to get injured again before the next season even starts. And speaking of players coming back from ACL tears, we got an update on 49ers wideout Brandon Aiyuk that's worth talking about. I don't love this though, but Aiyuk has yet to participate in practice as he's been rehabbing the ACL and MCL tear from all the way back in week 7 of the 2024 season. Well, yesterday, Kyle Shanahan gave the media an estimated return time, saying that he could be back for week 6. I'm not going to lie, that's a little concerning to me, and here's why. First of all, Shanahan said could be back for week 6. Like, that's what they're hoping for. It's not a guarantee, but that would be almost an entire calendar year since the injury took place. For comparison, Vikings left tackle Christian Darrisaw had the same injury, a torn ACL and MCL. He suffered it 4 days after Aiyuk did, weighs over 100 pounds more than Aiyuk does, yet returned to practice a week and a half ago and is aiming to play week 1. Recovery timelines are never linear, setbacks happen, but I do hope Aiyuk is able to make the strides needed to get back out there ASAP because the 49ers could use the help. For example, Jawan Jennings is dealing with a calf injury and hasn't practiced over the last week because of it. He has been looking for a new contract while entering the last year of his deal, so some thought he was just holding in and was quote-unquote injured, but Shanahan said the calf issue is legitimate and he actually had the same injury during last year's camp as well. That'll be something to monitor for sure because Ricky Pearsall has also had a nagging hamstring injury that had kept him out of practice for a bit, and they've had even more injuries further down the depth chart at that position as well. Now, CeeDee Lamb isn't necessarily dealing with an injury, but he might have a wounded ego, maybe even a little bit sore after he got pancaked by a ref during the Cowboys preseason game. I'm sure everybody's seen this video by now, but CeeDee Lamb was on the sideline celebrating what he thought was going to be a touchdown to Jonathan Mingo, and he got trampled by a wild zebra in the process. To add insult to injury, he actually received a 15-yard penalty for sideline interference. The pool report after the game explained that he was in the restricted white border area, and the ref was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing. Well, the 15-yard penalty may not be the only consequence that CeeDee faces for this, because yesterday, Adam Schefter appeared on the Pat McAfee show and explained that a fine could actually be coming as a result of this as well. The league is currently reviewing it, and at the end of the day, CeeDee Lamb is freaking rich. The fine will mean absolutely nothing to his pocketbook, but it's the fact that he became a meme that's probably going to hurt him more than anything else. His teammates already had a good laugh about it, as did CeeDee, though, to be fair. He seemed a good sport about the whole thing, posting the play on his Instagram story and saying, "I feel like everyone needs a laugh." So while that was one of the funnier moments from week 1 of the preseason, I want to take a look at a few standout performances, specifically from some exciting rookies. Before the rookies, though, I have to mention that Jags second-year kicker Cam Little hit a freaking 70-yard field goal during their game against the Steelers. But sadly, since it's preseason, it doesn't actually go on to be an NFL record, because if it did, it would be the longest field goal in NFL history, topping Justin Tucker's 66-yarder back in 2021. Another crazy play was Travion Henderson housing this kickoff for 100 yards on the first play of the game and his first ever NFL touch. This man is fast. That cut was nice, and I have a feeling he's going to be a problem for years to come. The same could be said about Giants edge rusher and 3rd overall pick Abdul Carter. He played just 6 snaps against the Bills, but in those 6 snaps, he tallied 3 pressures, with 2 of them being against left tackle Dion Dawkins, one of the best in the business. His teammate and fellow rookie Jackson Dart played the entire first half and actually had a really impressive showing. In just one half, he was 12 for 19 with 154 yards and a perfect TD toss to Lil Jordan Humphrey, the man with the greatest name in the NFL. Dart also scrambled 3 times for an additional 24 yards while avoiding any sacks, and overall, it was a positive debut for the young rookie. Cam Ward, the first overall pick and Titans' new starting quarterback and hopeful franchise quarterback, played just 2 drives. The first was a 3-and-out, yes, but the second was an 11-play drive that ended with a Tony Pollard touchdown. He looked much more comfortable on that second drive, and by the time he was pulled, he was 5 of 8 for 67 yards, with all 67 coming on that second drive. The quarterback that everyone was really talking about, though, was, of course, Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur got the start on Friday night, and I'll be honest, he did play pretty well. Maybe not as great as some people on Twitter would lead you to believe, but still, he made some solid throws, including this nice touchdown pass to Caden Davis here in the back of the end zone, then another one to Caden Davis later in the first half as well. Shedeur played almost the entire first 3 quarters, completing 14 of 23 passes for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. So while some were highly impressed with that outing, the Browns coaching staff apparently were not, because they released their second unofficial depth chart yesterday, and Shedeur was still listed as QB4 behind Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dillon Gabriel. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this training camp and preseason plays out, because Dillon Gabriel is back from his hamstring injury that kept him out of some practices and their first preseason game, but he's reportedly in play to get the start versus the Eagles on Saturday, as is Shedeur. Who actually ends up starting? Your guess is as good as mine right now. Regardless, I still feel like one of these 4 guys is going to be traded or waived, but we've likely got a few weeks before we see any movement on that front. But let's stick with the Browns, because Shedeur has a little something in common with one of his teammates, Myles Garrett. Aside from both being members of the Browns, they really like to go fast. Shedeur was pulled over twice in June for speeding, and apparently last night, Myles Garrett was cited for going 100 miles per hour in a 60 mile per hour zone. I would normally say there's nothing really to see here, but Myles had a pretty scary accident almost 3 years ago as a result of speeding. He was driving his Porsche and had to swerve to avoid an animal, causing his car to flip multiple times. Somehow, he came out of that with no serious injuries, but still, after something like that happened previously, I was surprised to see he got pulled over for going that fast just a few years later. Next up, Bills running back James Cook was finally back at practice after sitting out the last 4 practices while he awaits a new contract. Sean McDermott said he's had good conversations with James and that things have changed in regards to him holding out of practices. He wouldn't go into any details when asked if this meant that his hold-in was officially over or anything like that, but the fact that he was out there fully participating hopefully means a deal is coming pretty soon for him. GM Brandon Beane has been adamant that they want to pay Cook this offseason, though it'll be interesting to see what the final number on an extension is, because James has previously said he wants $15 million a year. I've broken down in several other videos why that might be a bit of an overpay, plus Kyren Williams only getting $11 million a year on his latest deal could impact Cook's market a bit here. And that is exactly what Pete Prisco, senior NFL columnist for CBS Sports, thinks ends up happening here. He's betting on a deal getting done with Cook very soon here, around the $11.5 million to $12 million per year mark. I'm also watching the Cam Heyward situation over in Pittsburgh right now, because he's another guy that's been holding in while looking for a contract restructure. Cam spoke with the media yesterday and said that he wants to be valued and that he knows what he brings to the team. He added it's hard to justify playing this season on his current salary, and when asked if he'd be willing to miss games until a deal is done, he said there are definite options out there that could reflect that. Last offseason, he signed a 3-year, $45 million extension with the Steelers, but only 16 of it was guaranteed. At the moment, he's scheduled to make $14.75 million this season on his current deal, but honestly, even at the age of 36, he's coming off of a season in which he way outproduced that contract. Cam knows it too, and he said that last year when he signed that extension, he told the team that after he has an all-pro season, he'll be right back to negotiate again. Not really sure why you would sign that if you wanted to renegotiate after a year, but here we are. Regardless, he racked up 8 sacks and 12 tackles for loss and made the 4th All-Pro team of his career. So he wants more, probably deserves it. We'll see what ends up happening here in the next couple of weeks. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below, as well as your preseason standouts. What are you looking forward to seeing the most this week? And with that, I'll see y'all next time.